Hi, welcome to the Entrepreneur by Choice. Please watch this video till the end and you will not only stop smoking in an easy way without using the willpower method, but you will also enjoy being a non-smoker. Let's begin. Do you know why you smoke? Why are you thinking on stopping or quitting? Why would you not encourage your children to smoke? Is smoking cigarette very enjoyable? If that is so, why do you smoke even during colds, flu, sore throat? If you think it's the macho effect of breathing smoke or fire down your nostrils, why you did not choose something with your ears? Do you think it really relieves your boredom? Boredom is a frame of mind. It has nothing to do with a cigarette. For 33 years, a man said it relaxed him, gave him courage and confidence. Within him, he knew it was killing him and costing him a fortune. Why didn't he go to his doctor and ask him for an alternative to relax him and give him confidence and courage? He did not go because he knew that the doctor would suggest him an alternative. It was really not his reason, it was his excuse. Do you think you smoke because your friends do it? Are you really that stupid? If so, just pray that your friends do not start cutting their heads off to cure a headache. Do you think it's a habit and habits are difficult to break? The UK people drive on the left side of the road, and if they visit the States, they immediately break the habit with hardly any aggravation whatsoever. When you first lit that first cigarette, because it tastes awful, did you think you can quit whenever you want? Don't you think this is a trap to make you think like that? Did you start smoking because you want to appear tough? I'm sure you know that the last thing you felt with the first cigarette was tough. You dared not to inhale. As you had many, you felt dizzy and then sick. If you are a woman, did you start because you want to be the sophisticated modern young lady? Don't you think that this is a figment of your imagination created by cigarette adverts? When we look at a woman taking that little puffs on a cigarette, she looked absolutely ridiculous. Why is that we think of stopping a cigarette only when we are stressful in our lives, either because we are unhealthy or have shortage of money? Why is that as soon as we stop smoking, we feel more stressed? Why is that we start smoking again thinking it was not the right time to stop and think that we need to wait for the right time to stop? Is it the tobacco that is causing the stress itself? The actual reason why smokers continue to smoke is because they are addicted to nicotine and they do not understand drug addiction. The second reason why they smoke, and it is the real problem, is that they are brainwashed. Nicotine addiction. Did you know that nicotine, the colorless oily compound contained in tobacco, is the fastest addictive drug known to mankind, and it takes just one cigarette to get you hooked? As soon as the smoker finishes the cigarette, the nicotine starts to leave the body and he begins to suffer the withdrawal pangs. These are mainly mental. There is no physical pain in the withdrawal from nicotine. Once he lights up another cigarette, now within 7 seconds of lighting a new cigarette, fresh nicotine is supplied and the craving ends. The whole business of smoking is like wearing tight shoes just to obtain the pleasure you feel when you take them off. The chemical addiction is easy to cope. If you stop the supply of nicotine, your body will recover within a matter of a few weeks. But it is the brainwashing that does not allow you to stop the supply. The non-smoker who acquire a small percentage of nicotine when he is around smokers don't suffer this withdrawal pangs because he is not brainwashed. Brainwashing. Before Columbus sailed around the world, the majority of people knew the planet to be flat. Today, we know it is round. Yet, how many of us have been into the space to see the planet? This is the power of suggestion over the subconscious mind. Advertising men know well the power of suggestion over the subconscious mind. Do you think that they do not persuade you to buy cigarettes? Try it out yourself. Next time you go into a pub or a restaurant and your companion asks you, "What are you having to drink?" Instead of saying a brandy or whatever, embellish it with, "Do you know what I would really enjoy today?" That marvelous warm glow of a brandy. You will find that even people who dislike brandy will join you. From our earliest years, our subconscious mind is bombarded daily with information telling us that cigarettes relax us, gives us confidence and courage. It also makes you feel like cigarette is the most precious thing on this earth. Do you think I exaggerate? Whenever you see a cartoon or film or play in which people are about to be executed or shot, what is their last request? That's right, a cigarette. The impact of this does not register on our conscious mind, but the subconscious mind has time to absorb it. What the message is really saying is, the most precious thing on this earth will be the smoking of a cigarette. In every war film, the injured man is given a cigarette. True, there is publicity the other way. The cancer scares, the legs being amputated, the bad breath campaigns, but these do not actually stop people smoking. Logically, they should, but the fact is they do not. The extent of brainwashing is quite incredible. As a society, we all get uptight about heroin addiction. Actual deaths from heroin addiction is very less compared to the people who are hooked to the cigarette. This is the number one killer in the society, including road accidents, fires, etc. Think of it this way. When you are hooked, there are two monsters placed in your body. One in the stomach, the little monster, which is the chemical addiction, and one in your brain, the big monster, the brainwashing. They both crave for nicotine until they are satisfied. Imagine having a cold sore on your face. I've got this marvelous ointment. I say to you, try this stuff. You rub the ointment and the sore disappears immediately. A week later, it reappears. You ask, "Do you have any more of that ointment?" I say, "Keep the tube. You might need it again." You apply the ointment, the sore disappears again. By now, you are completely dependent on the ointment. You never go out without ensuring that you have a tube of ointment with you. If you go abroad, you will make sure that you take several tubes with you. Now, in addition to your worries about your health, I am charging you $100 per tube. You have no choice but to pay. You then read in the medical column of your newspaper that this isn't happening just to you. Many other people have been suffering from the same problem. In fact, pharmacists have discovered that the ointment doesn't actually cure the sore. All that it does is to take the sore beneath the surface of the skin. It is the ointment that has caused the sore to grow. All you have to do to get rid of the sore is to stop using the ointment. The sore will eventually disappear in the due course. Would you continue to use the ointment? You need to start building resistance to this brainwashing, just as if you were buying a car from a second-hand dealer. You would be nodding politely, but you would not believe a word the man was saying. Now let's get little deeper, addressing each point that the smoker goes through. Stress. Let us use the telephone conversation as an example. For most people, the telephone is slightly stressful, particularly for the businessman. Most calls aren't from satisfied customers or from your boss congratulating you. There is usually some sort of trouble, something going wrong, or somebody making demands. At that time, the smoker, if he isn't already doing so, will light up a cigarette. He doesn't know why he is doing this, but he does know that for some reason it appears to help. What has actually happened is, without being conscious of it, he has already been suffering withdrawal pangs. By partially relieving that withdrawal pangs, he thinks that the cigarette has reduced some stress about the trouble he is dealing with on the phone. Boredom. The truth is that cigarettes tend to increase boredom indirectly because they make you feel lethargic, and instead of undertaking some energetic activity, smokers tend to lounge around, bored, relieving their withdrawal pangs. This is why countering the brainwashing is so important, because it's a fact that smokers tend to smoke when they are bored, and that we have been told since birth that smoking relieves boredom. It doesn't occur to us to question the fact. Concentration. The smoker is already suffering that little monster wants his fix. So when he wants to concentrate, he doesn't even have to think about it. He automatically lights up, partially ending the craving, gets on with the matter in hand, and he has already forgotten that he is smoking. In fact, the concentration is affected adversely. The progressive blocking up of the arteries and veins with poison starves the brain of oxygen. Relaxations. The truth is that nicotine is a chemical stimulant. If you take your pulse after smoking 2 consecutive cigarettes, there will be a marked increase in your pulse rate. One of the favorite cigarettes for most smokers is the one after a meal. A meal is a time of the day when we stop working. We sit down and relax, relieve our hunger and thirst. However, the poor smoker cannot relax as he has another hunger to satisfy. He thinks of the cigarette as the icing on the cake, but it is the little monster that needs the feeding. Start watching smokers, particularly when they are not allowed to smoke. You will find that they have their hands near their mouths, or they are twiddling their thumbs, or tapping their feet, or fiddling with their hair, or clenching their jaw. Smokers aren't relaxed. They have forgotten what it feels like to be completely relaxed. Combination cigarettes. A combination cigarette is one occasioned by 2 or more of our usual reasons for smoking. Example, social functions, parties, weddings, meals in restaurants. These are examples of occasions that are both stressful and relaxing. This might at first appear to be a contradiction, but it isn't. Any form of socializing can be stressful, even with friends. At the same time, you want to be enjoying yourself and be completely relaxed. In fact, it is the same principle at work. These cigarettes simply provide relief from withdrawal pangs, and at certain times we have greater need to relieve them than at others. Let us make it quite clear. It is not the cigarette that is special, it is the occasion. Once we have removed the need for the cigarette, such occasions will become more enjoyable and the stressful situations less stressful. What are you giving up? Absolutely nothing. The thing that makes it difficult for us to give up is fear. The fear that we are being deprived of our pleasure or prop. The fear that certain pleasant situations will never be quite the same again. The fear of being unable to cope with stressful situations. In other words, The effect of brainwashing is to delude us into believing that there is a weakness in us or something inherent in the cigarette that we need, and when we stop smoking, there will be a void. Get it clear in your mind. Cigarettes don't fill a void, they create the void. I'll save X dollars a week. If you say to a smoker, you are wasting money, he would say, I can afford it. It is only X dollar per week and I think it is worth it. It is my only vice or pleasure, etc. Smoker never consider it as a lifetime expense. If you are 20 a day smoker, you are spending $50,000 in your lifetime. Let's say I make an offer to you, that is, to pay me $1,000 now and I'll provide you free cigarettes for the rest of your life. Would you? I'm sure you will not. On the other hand, if I were to offer you to take over $50,000 mortgage for $1,000, you will surely have my signature. Why is that? In other aspects of life, you will go to a great deal of trouble to save a few dollars here and there and yet spend thousands of dollars poisoning yourself and hang the expense? The answer is, every other decision that you make in your life will be the result of an analytical process of weighing up the pros and cons and arriving at a rational answer. All smokers are smokers not because they want to or because they decided to, but because they think they cannot stop. Making them think they cannot stop is brainwashing too. Health. Smokers think they are aware of the health risk. They are not. A cough is one of nature's fail-safe methods of dispelling foreign matter from the lungs. The cough itself is not a disease, it is just a symptom. When smokers cough, it is because their lungs are trying to dispel cancer-triggering tars and poisons. When they do not cough, those tars and poisons remain in their lungs, and that is when they cause cancer. If you knew for certain that the next cigarette would be the one to trigger off cancer in your body, would you smoke it? Get it into your head. It is already happening. Every time you puff on a cigarette, you are breathing cancer-triggering tars into your lungs. And cancer is by no means the worst of the killer diseases that cigarettes cause or contribute to. They are also a powerful contributors of heart disease, arteriosclerosis, emphysema, angina, thrombosis, chronic bronchitis, and asthma. The greatest danger that smoking causes to our health is the gradual and progressive deterioration of our immune system caused by this blocking up process. The most powerful defense we have against a disease is our immune system. We all suffer infections and diseases throughout our lives. However, I do not believe that the human body was designed to be diseased, and if you are strong and healthy, your immune system will fight and defeat these attacks. How can your immune system work effectively when you are starving every muscle and organ of oxygen and nutrients and replacing them with carbon monoxide and poisons? Smoking gradually destroys your immune system. We tend to think of smoking as a tug of war. On one side, fear. It's unhealthy, expensive, filthy, and enslaving. On the other side, the pluses. It's my pleasure, my friend, my crutch. It never seems to occur to us that this side is also fear. It's not so much that we enjoy them, but that we tend to be miserable without them. Energy. The effect it has on the energy levels is very similar to the effects of bad eating habits. The pot belly appears so gradually that it causes us no alarm. We look at people who are grossly overweight and wonder how they could possibly have allowed themselves to reach that state. Once you stop, you will not only feel healthier and have more energy, but you would feel more confident, relaxed, and better able to concentrate. You know instinctively that what I am telling you is correct. All you need to do is use your imagination. Why willpower method of stopping is difficult? Smokers believe that social occasions and meals are improved by cigarettes and that they help to relieve stress. It doesn't seem to occur to them that the same cigarette out of the same packet will taste exactly the same after a meal as it does first thing in the morning. In fact, smoking neither improves meals and social occasions nor does it relieve stress. It's just that smoker believes they can't enjoy a meal or handle stress without a cigarette, and because of this, he feels that he is making a sacrifice and begins to feel deprived if he tries to stop. He has also heard stories of smokers who have stopped for many months and are still desperately craving a cigarette. These are all the angry or dissatisfied stoppers. They stop and then spend the rest of their lives expressing sadness about their life without a cigarette. He has also heard of smokers who have stopped for many years, apparently leading happy lives, but have one cigarette and are suddenly hooked again. Probably he also knows several smokers in the advanced stages of the disease who are visibly destroying themselves and are clearly not enjoying the cigarettes, and yet they continue to smoke. Added to all this, he has also probably already suffered one or more of these experiences himself. Another thing that makes it so difficult is the waiting for something to happen. If your object is to pass a driving test, as soon as you have passed the test, it is certain that you have achieved your object. Under the willpower method, you say, if I can go long enough without a cigarette, the urge to smoke will eventually go. How do you know when you have achieved it? The answer is that you never know, because you are waiting for something to happen and nothing else is going to happen. You stopped when you smoked that last cigarette, and what you are really doing now is waiting to see how long it will be before you give in. Beware of cutting down. It is our attempts to cut down that keeps us trapped all our lives. I cannot face the thought of being without a cigarette, so from now on I will just smoke the special ones, or I will cut down to 10 a day. If I can get in the habit of smoking 10 a day, I can either hold it there or cut down further. Certain terrible things now happen. You are still addicted to nicotine and you are still keeping the monsters alive, not only in the body but also in the mind. Prior to cutting down, whenever you wanted a cigarette, you lit one up and at least partially relieved your withdrawal pangs. Now, in addition to the normal stresses and strains of life, you are actually causing yourself to suffer the withdrawal pangs from nicotine most of your life. So you are causing yourself to be miserable and bad-tempered. Just one cigarette. Just one cigarette is a myth you must get out of your mind. It is just one cigarette that gets you started in the first place. It is just one cigarette to tide you over a difficult patch or on a special occasion that defeats most of your attempts to stop. It is just one cigarette that, when smokers have succeeded in breaking the addiction, sends them back into the trap. Sometimes it is just to confirm that they do not need them anymore, and that one cigarette does just that. It tastes horrible and convinces the smoker that he will never become hooked again, but he already is. Get it firmly in your mind. There is no such thing as just one cigarette. It is a chain reaction that will last for the rest of your life unless you break it. Casual smokers. Why do smokers brag about how little they smoke? If that's the true criterion, then surely the true praise is not to smoke at all. So when a smoker makes a statement like, I can go all week without a cigarette, what he is really saying is, I managed to survive a whole week without smoking. Like every smoker, he was probably hoping that after this he could survive the rest of his life. Remember, the only pleasure smoker gets is to relieve withdrawal pangs, and as we have seen before, even that pleasure is an illusion. A social habit? The only reason why we ever get involved with smoking is the social pressure of our girlfriend or boyfriend, school friend, or work colleague. The only valid plus smoking ever had was that it was at one time considered a perfectly acceptable social habit. Today, it is generally considered, even by smokers themselves, to be an antisocial habit. Today, the position is completely reversed. Today's strong man doesn't need to smoke. Today's strong man is not dependent on a drug. With the social revolution, all smokers nowadays are giving serious thought to stopping, and today's smokers are considered to be generally weak people. The easy way to stop. Providing you follow the instructions, you will find that stopping ranges from relatively easy to enjoyable. All you have to do is two things. Don't mope about it. Rejoice. You are probably asking why the need for the rest of the video. Why couldn't you have said that in the first place? The answer is that you would at some time have moped about it, and consequently, sooner or later, you would have changed your decision. You have probably already done it many times before. As I have already said, the whole business of smoking is a subtle trap. The main problem of smoking isn't the chemical addiction, but the brainwashing. And it was necessary first to explore the myths and delusions. The key to making it easy to quit smoking is to be certain that you will succeed in abstaining completely during the withdrawal period, maximum of 3 weeks. If you are in the correct frame of mind, you will find it ridiculously easy. It is essential to start with the correct frame of mind. Isn't it marvelous that I am a non-smoker? All we have to do now is to keep you in that frame of mind during the withdrawal period, and the next few topics deal with specific points to enable you to stay in that frame of mind during that time. After the withdrawal period, you don't have to think that way. You will think that way automatically. And the only mystery in your life will be, it is so obvious, why couldn't I see it before? The withdrawal period. For up to 3 weeks after your last cigarette, you may be subjected to withdrawal pangs. These consist of two quite separate factors. 1. The withdrawal pangs of nicotine, the empty, insecure feeling which smokers identify as craving. 2. The psychological trigger of certain events such as a telephone conversations. For the next 3 weeks, you will have a slight trauma inside your body. But during those weeks and for the rest of your life, something marvelous will be happening. You will be ridding yourself of an awful disease. That bonus will more outweigh than the slight trauma, and you will actually enjoy the withdrawal pangs. They will become moments of pleasure. Think of the whole business of stopping as an exciting game. Think of the nicotine monster as a sort of tapeworm inside your stomach. You have got to starve him for 3 weeks, and he is going to try to trick you into lighting a cigarette to keep him alive. At times, he will try to make you miserable. At times, you will be off guard. Someone may offer you a cigarette and you may forget that you have stopped. There is a slight feeling of deprivation when you remember. Be prepared for these traps in advance. Whatever the temptation, get it into your mind that it is only there because of the monster inside your body, and every time you resist the temptation, you have dealt another mortal blow in the battle. Just one puff. That little puff has two damaging effects. 1. It keeps the little monster alive in the body. 2. What's worse, it keeps the big monster alive in your mind. If you had the last puff, it will be easier to have the next one. Remember, just one cigarette is how people get into smoking in the first place. The main reasons for failure. There are two main reasons for failure. The first is the influence of the other smokers. Remember that the smoker envies you and feel sorry for him. Believe me, he needs your pity. The other main reason for failure is having a bad day. Get it clear in your mind before you start that whether you are a smoker or a non-smoker, there are good days and bad days in life. Remind yourself that you had bad days when you smoked, otherwise you wouldn't have decided to stop. Instead of moping about it, say to yourself something like, okay, today is not so good, but smoking is not going to cure it. Tomorrow will be better, and at least I have got a marvelous bonus at the moment. I have kicked the awful cigarette habit. Remember, a positive mental approach is essential always. Substitutes. Substitutes include chewing gums, sweets, peppermints, herbal cigarettes, and pills. Do not use any of them. If you get a pang and use a substitute, it will prolong the pang and make it harder. What you are really saying is, I need to smoke or fill the void. Should I avoid temptation situations? I repeat that it is fear that keeps us smoking all our lives. And this fear consists of two distinct phases. 1. How can I survive without a cigarette? This fear is the panic feeling that smokers get when they are out late at night and their cigarettes begin to run out. The fear isn't caused by withdrawal pangs, but is the psychological fear of dependency that you cannot survive without a cigarette. Don't worry, that panic is just psychological. It is the fear that you are dependent. The beautiful truth is that you are not, even when you are still addicted to nicotine. Do not panic. Just trust me and launch yourself. 2. The second phase of fear is longer term. It involves the fear that certain situations in the future will not be enjoyable without a cigarette, or that you will not be able to cope with a trauma without a cigarette. Don't worry, if you can launch yourself, you will find the opposite to be the case. The moment of revelation. The moment of revelation usually takes place about 3 weeks after a smoker stops. And it is the moment when the brainwashing ends completely. When instead of telling yourself you do not need to smoke, you suddenly realize that the last thread is broken and you can enjoy the rest of your life without ever needing to smoke again. It is also usually from this point that you start looking at other smokers as objects of pity. For some, about 5 days after smoking is when the ex-smoker ceases to have smoking as the main occupation of his mind. Most ex-smokers experience the moment of revelation around this period. What usually happens is you are in one of those stressful or social situations that once you couldn't cope with or enjoy without a cigarette. You suddenly realize that not only are you enjoying or coping with it, but the thought of having a cigarette has never even occurred to you. That's when you know you are free. The key to the problem is not to wait for the moment of revelation, but to realize that once you extinguish that last cigarette, it is finished. You have already done all you need to do. You have cut off the supply of nicotine. No force on earth can prevent you from being free unless you mope about it or wait for revelation. Go and enjoy life. Cope with it right from the start. That way, you'll soon experience the moment. The final cigarette. Before you smoke the last cigarette, check on the two essentials. Do you feel certain of success? Have you a feeling of doom and gloom or sense of excitement that you are about to achieve something marvelous? If you don't feel certain of success or sense of excitement, it is because you failed to understand. If you have any doubts, watch the video again or read the book. If you feel certain of success and a sense of excitement, follow the simple instructions. 1. Make the solemn vow now and mean it. 2. Smoke that final cigarette consciously. Inhale the filth deeply into your lungs and ask yourself where the pleasure is. 3. When you extinguish the cigarette, do so not with the feeling of I must never smoke another or I am not allowed to smoke another, but with the feeling of isn't it great? I am free. I am no longer the slave of nicotine. I don't ever have to put these filthy things in my mouth again. 4. Be aware that for a few days there will be a little nicotine saboteur inside your stomach. You might only know the feeling, I want a cigarette. At times, I refer to that little nicotine monster as the slight physical craving for nicotine. Strictly, this is incorrect, and it is important that you understand why. Because it takes about 3 weeks for the little monster to die, ex-smokers believe that the little monster will continue to crave cigarettes even after the final cigarette has been extinguished, and they must therefore use willpower to resist the temptation during this period. This is not so. The body doesn't crave nicotine, only the brain craves nicotine. If you do get that feeling of I want a cigarette over the next few days, your brain has a simple choice. It can either interpret that feeling for what it actually is, an empty, insecure feeling started by the first cigarette and perpetuated by every subsequent one, and say to yourself, Yippee, I am a non-smoker. Or you can start craving for a cigarette and suffer it for the rest of your life. Just think for a moment. Wouldn't that be an incredibly stupid thing to do? To say, I never want to smoke again, then spend the rest of your life saying, I would love a cigarette. That's what smokers who use the willpower method do. No wonder they feel so miserable. They spend the rest of their lives desperately moping for something that they desperately hope they will never have. No wonder so few of them succeed, and the few that do never feel completely free. 5. It is only the doubting and the waiting that make it difficult to quit. So never doubt your decision. You know it's the correct decision. If you begin to doubt it, you will put yourself into a no-win situation. You will be miserable if you crave a cigarette but can't have one. You will be even more miserable if you do have one. No matter what system you are using, what is it that you are trying to achieve when you quit smoking? Never to smoke again? No, many ex-smokers do that, but go through the rest of their lives feeling deprived. What is the real difference between smokers and non-smokers? Non-smokers have no need or desire to smoke. They do not crave cigarettes and do not need to exercise willpower in order not to smoke. That's what you are trying to achieve, and it is completely within your power to achieve it. You don't have to wait to stop craving cigarettes or to become a non-smoker. You do it the moment you extinguish that final cigarette. You have cut off the supply of nicotine. You are already a happy non-smoker. Please share the video or suggest the book to the other smokers that you know. Thank you very much.